be the king of what he's moving in the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii and the leadership that he's put together. I mean, this is an eclectic group. I've looked at this and I see this is a picture of heaven. I praise the Lord that we're not all the same, but that we're seeing here the uniqueness of God. And that even though we may not all share the same exact viewpoints, we can share our hearts with one another, and we respect and appreciate one another because of who God chose us to be. So I'm thankful for all of you, but I'm excited about what God has for you, Brother Silva, and this whole kingdom effort. And I'm looking forward to the days ahead. And I praise him for that. Don't want to take up all this time. There's good stuff here. But I love the Lord, and I love what he's doing in you. And
Thank
you got
you. Lenny, is there anything you'd like to say, add or not? It's up to you.
Well, I think Reverend Williams was very eloquent about what the challenge is here. We came into a world filled with chaos. And what is our role in trying to reestablish a foundation of peace and love?
right,
Counter what's happening in the wider crazy world.
right.
And I agree. And I believe that's why we're all here. And thank you, Pastor Williams. Thank you, Lenny. The moving to the agenda, number one is, what are your thoughts on Trump's gold card replacing green card? Do you think this is a good idea? And could you defend your position? I'm sure you're all prepared. And I'll call upon you to, there is always a reason why I choose different topics. Because the folks know the green card was manipulated. Some had it, they don't renew it, they lose their green card. They have to leave the United States and or they face penalties or some kind of punitive damage. But this gold card, Trump is offering, they pay $5 million. I think permanent residency as the path to citizenship, so he says. So I'm going to call on you to tell me your thoughts. So I'm going to have Earl. We'll start with you, Earl. Aloha, Earl.
Aloha, everyone. I had an issue with you pulling up the agenda, but I'm glad you're going over it with me. But on my viewpoint, when it comes down to that, economics is always an issue. And me personally hearing about the green card versus the gold card presents its own challenges, which excludes so many people because you putting it on an economic thing versus merit of why you want citizenship. It's like a pay as you go thing, which still is not going to help many people that are trying to seek, a new beginning or, a brighter path. So I just see that that's true hardship, more red tape, and more struggles just to achieve, just a simple goal is having something better. I just think they should have did more regulatory or have someone oversee like you do everything else to make sure these things are properly done. Because there's a lot of people whose visas for students, green card students, are in the United States, and all of a sudden that you don't know where they're at anymore. Especially I had to do that in my position as law enforcement over the years, also addressing it. I just think it should have been more addressed better. But this one, I think it puts a whole lot of people more hopeless because that's one of the grand issues is financial, and nobody has that much money. If that's the case, I couldn't be a citizen.
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor Williams, do you have thoughts on this?
Well, I'm going to echo what Brother Earl was saying. I did read some of this and I've got highlights up. I just don't understand how how people can invest a dollar bill as a pathway to being a citizen. It just makes no sense to me. And if that would be the case, I couldn't do it either, for that matter. The whole process behind, and I guess I have an idea as to why the president is doing or saying what he's saying, but sometimes I believe that the mentality of throwing things up on the wall to see what sticks is just not the best way to go. There needs to be great conversation in this and how that we deal with the world structure as America. I'm just not sure that this is the mindset that would work. I'm all for immigration reform. I think it takes too long, far too long, to see individuals become citizens if that's their desire. There needs to be reformation there that would change, but I also believe that we need to honor our Constitution as Americans, that it needs to be honored as a whole. This is a dividing force that should never be a dividing force. Just like as what you and the legal team is putting together as constitutional efforts here, these are not dividers. These are what bring us together and keep us in that sense. You've got to have these things down, and it has to be honored. You know, you can have all the honorable words that you want, but you have dishonorable people running it, it's all going to be a mess. And so I'm not a huge proponent currently as to what I've been reading, and then but there's a whole lot more that I don't know than what I do know with this.
Well, thank you. For a call on anyone, just to be clear, I have my concerns, but what this does is eliminate the poor people from coming to the United States. They cannot get $5 million. It's catering to the rich and the powerful to come in and to, with that, to bring their money to build companies or whatever they want, hire people, seems to be the agenda, rather than those who want to leave a country that's been oppressive. And for me, that is not an acceptable thing. We catering to one group of people, and many others suffer, and their suffering continues because, again, it's not simply politics, and as Earl mentioned, was economics. It seems that's where that is leading to. Lenny, your thoughts, please.
Well, I have a whole lot of thoughts about what's going on here. I think that we need to be real clear-eyed about what we're seeing, because what we're seeing is a concerted effort to destroy the United States of America. There may have been some question earlier about policy of immigration or whatever, but all of those are just grifter cards, things that are played out for people to get sucked in, when in fact what's happening is a systematic dismantling of all the institutions of the United States has been underway for some time, and it's getting worse, and it's going to lead to economic disaster if we keep going down this road, and spiritual disaster if we go down this road. So it's really time for a family meeting to decide, okay, what do we do if we go into Costco and there's nothing on the available? It's empty. The store is empty. That's a scenario that could play out because we're not preparing ourselves. We had discussions a long time ago about moving in supplies and things like that to take care of a disaster. Well, the disaster is actually a rolling disaster where every day brings a new scandal, and every day brings a new lie, and every day brings a new distraction from what's actually being done. So as I say, I have a lot to say about all of this, but I'll just stop there for now.
Oh, continue. Continue.
Well, I am concerned that people are not really paying attention to what's being done and finding excuses for this team that's come in with no authority to do what they're doing. As a lawyer, I find this entire process incredibly offensive because it is not the rule of law. It's the rule of the rich and the rule of the powerful. And as long as we are stuck in that paradigm, we're never going to get out of it. So I do think we should have a discussion in our group, in this table of nobles, about what is it we can do to help prepare or help heal all the damage that's been done. There's things that just aren't being discussed. And one of them is, okay, now that you've destroyed everything, what are you going to build? What are you bringing to this family that can be helpful in getting through this crisis? And you know, what do we see today? Abolishing the National Weather Service. Well, how crazy is that? The National Weather Service is not doing any harm to anybody. They're bringing information and data so you know what the weather's going to be. If there's a hurricane coming, they'll tell you about it. But they're going to defund the National Weather Service with no basis at all. I mean, I can tell you that in the law, these firings, all these people being fired, I think 95% of it is false. 95% of it is using the law inappropriately. The law is there to provide guidance and hold things within the guardrails, if you will, of what is being done. And the guardrails are down. They've been knocked down by this group of people who are looting the treasury. That's one part of their game. But their real fundamental game, for whatever reason, is the destruction of the United States of America. And that's going to bring with it untold misery. You know, they're cutting off Social Security. They're cutting off health care. They're cutting off everything that we have worked so many years to put in place as a safety net. The safety net is shredded. And we're left with the pieces to try and put something back together. And they haven't stopped shredding. So one of the things that's happened here is this crisis has revealed a weak spot in the United States structure, that they were able to remove all the law enforcement people basically, and then loot the treasury. Is unbelievable that they were able to get away with it and are still getting away with it. As you can see, this has actually touched a nerve for me, so I'm going to pause there and let others speak.
Well, I thank you for what you said. In furthering that theme, I was just reading as you were speaking that this current administration is not taking away Social Security or Medicare, that they're leaving that alone. But in
That
fact,
may be true today, but it won't be true tomorrow.
I believe that. And what it did say is that there's no taxes that will be paid on the benefits of Social Security. That's been done with his signing of his executive powers. And so that's what I just read. This idea of a group of people firing people, et cetera, I understand it totally. I concur. Does anybody want to add to what Lenny said?
I do.
Yeah.
When we talk about the rule of law, which a lot of people are familiar with the rule of law, this has nothing to do with that, as he was mentioning. This is about power.
Yeah.
And this is also me personally watching stuff politically. He's running a plan, believe it or not, of what Putin did in his country to have ultimate power. Is removing the safeguards that can challenge him, where he has total control over all those agencies, with elimination of opposition, of trying to do a bloodless coup, is pretty much my opinion of even the history of the pattern that he's using. He's using tactics that he's seen other places to try to be that totalitarian over the United States, incomplete. And it's all about power. He never really cares about the rule of law at all.
Amen.
I agree with that, because the specific question you asked was the difference between the gold card and the green card.
Yes.
Anybody that can afford $5 million to get access to citizenship is not someone who can afford that. Is the ones that are going to buy up land on their international countries, and that's already happening in Hawaii. China owns almost close to over $800 million in investment. Okay, so, and the law that, that all countries have, that you could set a price. Either you open a business, you live there for so many years, okay, those are all the average people. But when you talk about passing to, you get a gold card, that's a whole different level. It's right where you're talking about. That's where you make oligarchs, okay? That's, there, he's offering it to the wealthy, the wealth of the world. Come to the United States, buy up the land, open resorts. It's, the examples are there. That is that is so wow. That we're gonna make a $5 million gold card. You can get, you know, citizenship. That citizen is not somebody who's trying to, whose family's crossed the border. That's corporations that can afford that. That corporation is going to come in, buy up land like they've done in the United States. Okay, and then that kind of land and corporations will control state laws to enforce, to take care of their investments. It's a that's a whole different game. And it was put on the table. So, like I said, you know, yeah, Lenny, but that's that's, you know, a lot of countries, if we go back and look at the countries, because this law has been in there for a while, that countries can do this. Look at what has happened, how countries are trying to manage that. A lot of it is to back off from too much of it, because they start buying up, these corporations start buying up land, things that no one can afford. None of us can afford what they can do with that kind of money. And that's evidence in countries that produce that kind of laws. But
Yeah,
most countries stay real low, you know, they don't go to 5 billion, or maybe a few do, but we really stepped out there and we're really saying what we're doing. We're for sale, but it's not for sale to allow, you know, people who come in and work. It's gonna be for big corporations to come in and buy up land. And it's already happened in Hawaii. That's why we price out of paradise.
and you're right. And that $5 million, not many people can stop $5 million and say, here it is. You're gonna bring in corporations, yes, but with that comes a lot of trouble.
Like Earl said, he's right. It's economics, and it's it's just as good as giving the tax write-offs to the rich.
Exactly.
It was the perfect, it's like a plan B in the process. And it's not something that's just happening today. It's sad that we as Americans get educated at the last minute. And even that education is not everything in the pocket, on the table. But this has been happening for so long, because I came from a corporate background, you know, where, you know, biggest corporations that came to Hawaii to give sales incentives to their big salespeople, their shareholders. These are Fortune 500 companies. And then you look at the hotels in Hawaii and who owns them: Korean companies, Chinese companies, Arab countries. Now, those are the people that can give you $5 million to get a citizenship.
Yes.
So that was mine.
Well, thank you. Dustin,
Your
anything?
Majesty?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that we're all in alignment in kind of where we see the step-by-step dismantling. And, you know, nice about this is that there's already safeguards, because the EB-5 program that this is being taught after, it's an act of Congress. So he can't just disavow it. What he can do is add this 5 million gold card to it, but he can't just disavow it without having an act of Congress. So as far as being able to still bring in the smaller amounts, because most countries have some kind of a green card, gold card program around the world, whether it's 200,000 or $1 million. 5 million is definitely, you know, looking for a certain type of individual, because you got to imagine, you know, if you're putting in 5 million, you have to have at least 50 million. Otherwise, you're not going to spend all your money to come to America, because you have to have strategy once you get here. So I think that there's time to see how it plays out. Is it something that is obviously going to be hurting? Yes, because he's obviously going to be trying to get rid of the EB-5 as soon as he can get his gold card. So it's going to be supplemental to that. But the whole point of the original EB-5 was to bring other nations' business in to create jobs. And like everybody's talking about, when you're talking about someone that has $50 million, they're just going to be buying. They're just going to be purchasing. They're not going to be creating mom and pop jobs, which is what our country needs right now. So if you really look at the stats, there's really only 300,000 people outside of the United States that have over $50 million. And I would say that you have to have a minimum of $50 million to even bother going in with having a $5 million gold card that comes in. And one of the scarier things that was actually in one of the articles was that Trump actually said, well, this will allow Russian oligarchs to be able to afford to come into the US. Well, how can we have sanctions against Russia, but allow Russian oligarchs, who are the ones in control, into our country just because they can pay a $5 million fee?
And we're seeing that he is trying to do away with the EB-5 program, which was decentralized. And if he switches it to the $5 million gold, it's going to become centralized in Washington. And all of the parties that had worked very hard on the EB-5 with the regional centers that actually were funding pretty decent projects, because we actually had worked with several of them, would be a disaster. It would wipe out all of the work that's been done to bring entities and countries and younger people in that want to build businesses here. So if he's planning on doing away with the EB-5 and switching to the gold card eventually, I think it would be a disaster. It would hurt everybody that's worked so hard on that program. And it's that the numbers that we looked at in the research says that it's going to be negligible, because with the applications on the EB-5 under $1 million, and you switch it to 5 million, yeah, you're going to bring in $5 million, but you're going to have a lot less number of applicants. So the difference is going to be negligible anyway. So as all the speakers previously said, they're going to just try to get the wealthy people in that are going to buy up the country and control it. More power. It's not going to be good.
Thank you both. Michael, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I don't see it the same way that everybody else does. I think that there's always different perspectives and different realities. You know, I don't know Trump personally. I've met him numerous times. I don't believe in everything that he does and says, but I do believe that the things that he's doing his best to try and provide benefit to humanity. I don't believe he's trying to do a massive control takeover. I believe that the people that he's brought in leadership are best to fill those roles. I believe that what's happening it's not dismantling of every department, but auditing and review of every department.
What planet do you
Hold
live
on,
on,
hold on.
Michael?
Hey,
What planet
Lenny.
do you live on?
Lenny, I let you go. Please allow me my observation.
Go ahead.
I live in a reality where the last 4 years, a lot of damage was done. And the prior 4 years, I saw a man that came in and worked every day and provides transparency and honesty through media as much as he can. Now, Lenny, hold on. I believe that the things that are happening, are they all perfect? No. Can they be? No. But I don't see the same way that you do. I see energies and efforts that are going towards things that are trying to limit government. And that's the bottom line. Government is not here to control us or enslave us. Government is here to serve humanity and get out of the way. The weather station topic, maybe it can be done privatized in a better way. I don't know the details on why he's making the claims. Social Security, all I see is Social Security, the tax being removed from it. From the balancing of the budget and cutting costs, I believe that Social Security could become more of a reality than the current math, because the current math doesn't work. The ability for oil and gas and the drilling that they're doing with minerals, you know, it puts people to work. He's using military to actually do some of that. You know, if we talk about the basis of why I believe that the Kingdom of Hawaii is here, it's around peace. And I believe that he's ultimately after peace. Here's the net. How many people died during his 4 years of presidency versus how many people died after he was in for 4 years. I believe what we experienced over the last 24 hours with Zelensky in the White House, is it posturing? Was it difficult to see? Was it hard? If I put myself in Zelensky's position, would I struggle with being tag teamed by two strong individuals you're in their house and you're having to ask for things that are difficult? And I personally have a beautiful connection to Ukraine, and I love the people that are there, and I'm sorry for what is happening. But do I see a solution to it? Yes. Do I see a process that has to occur? I personally think that, the solution here, there will be pieces of Ukraine that will be taken, and some of those will include resources and minerals that others will take, and including Russia. And in the end, is that right? No. But does it create peace where the deaths stop and the invasion stops? And the real basis of why that war is even going on is around people keeping commitments of prior generations or all the way from the dismantling of the USSR and NATO not coming there. I would ask questions on why is it that NATO doesn't actually protect the Hawaiian Kingdom or the archipelagos of islands. There's a separation between those. And ultimately, our jurisdiction and our rights in this body has to do with building up the Kingdom of Hawaii and rebuilding what was stolen. It has nothing to do with speculating on, is a program for $5 million for a golden visa or a green visa or a purple visa? In all reality, other countries do it as well. I personally looked at New Zealand, the $2 million. And it's not, do you write a check to the government? It's, do you bring value to the government? Do you bring wealth and jobs and infrastructure in? And they go through a strict, at least in New Zealand, they go through a strict review of the people, of who they are. And I guarantee, at least I would believe that there would be an accountability around if a Russian oligarch that did something wrong or illegal comes into the US and spends that money, I would hope that there would be something around that. But it's not our role to speculate it. I don't believe it's, and let's just say that we all can speculate and we can all agree or disagree. But on this particular topic, I see a president in President Trump that has done more for America than almost any president combined that I've seen in this, Lenny, you can shake your head, but my reality is this is my perception, my honest perception of an environment where it's difficult. There is no right or wrong answer. In the end, I believe that people are here under God and not under a government. And should we be manifesting to some prime minister or some king or some ruler or some president? No. We should be individuals that should be self-governing and self-respecting of our own persons. And yes, do we live in systems that have laws of the land that are created by these systems? But I don't believe that the things that are happening are negative, like everyone speaking here. I believe that people are trying to do the best that they can. Do I see a land grab and trying to take wealth? No different than what's already happened in society. I would say the last 4 years have been the biggest nightmare that I've personally observed in my 50 years of life. But that's my perspective. So I know most of you disagree with me. And am I in love with Trump? No. Do I shake my head at things that he does? Often. But do I believe that he's trying to do the right thing? Not just for him and not just for his family and not just for America, but for humanity? I do. And with that, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Michael. Aloha. How are you? Hold on one second. What you said, Michael, there's just a second, Michael. Aloha. What you said, Michael, has a lot of value in what you said because it's true. You have your own perspective as everyone else does. And I don't hear people here doing any type of denigration, more so than an observation as to what they see. So I don't hear anybody here being 100% judgmental, but I hear more of a thoughtful response that could borderline a question and an answer. That's what I'm hearing. So I feel that everyone here has an opinion, And those opinion to me is value, because I respect everybody's values. And then we take it from there. I know that some of the subject matter that I choose will become a debate. And I love a debate. Why? Because it brings out the character of each one here, builds up their will, their strength, it brings out the value as to what they believe in. Because only then, and then alone, will you be able to go out into the world to represent the kingdom, to represent who we are, to be steadfast, to know where our values are and who we are as a people. And part of this is our lessons of our lives. Like Lanny, who is our Li'iman Anui, is one of the most trusted, most valued person whom I've come to know and love. And I value his mana'o because of his character. His character is one that's so unquestionable. And he has lived his life, and the lessons he have lived, as we all have lived, has been the reality of who we are and how we become today. You mentioned your 50 years on earth. Lanny has more of that life in his belt than you have in yours. So that being said, in our culture, we respect our kupunas. Our kupunas, we respect them. We are guided by our kupunas. Our kupunas have wisdom beyond our age. If we simply listen, we simply observe. And by that, this is not a scolding, but again, it's me being king. And you mentioned something about leadership king, this, and that. I will say to you that, and as I wrote, that the ancient kings of ancient times were ordained by God. So God knew that having a king was value. And I'm not going to circumvent God's will. Did he bring in prime ministers and presidents? Well, in the Bible, in the Book of Mormon, it doesn't say he brought in prime ministers or presidents, but he did bring King Benjamin in the Book of Mosiah. And I know the Book of Mormon very well. And then you look at how King David and how he spoke and what he did. And so I will just remind you and all of us that respect is always first and foremost here. Giving respect, adhering to the respect, loving each other and being kind to each other. And I love an open debate. But thank you for your mana'o. And we move forward.
I need to say something more. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to call you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I've got one too.
I would like to bring someone in who was fired with no notice, denied due process, and tossed out on the street when they were nothing but a good public servant. And now they've been basically disenfranchised completely and have no idea what tomorrow will bring. And have that person sit down opposite Michael and have Michael explain the benefits of the Trump administration to that hopeless person.
I live it every day of my life. Happy to.
I will say that that analogy that Lanny gave, obviously we know he was talking about Elon Musk and his team of whiz kids, I call them. And they're going from, called DOGE, Department of Efficiency and whatever the last letter is on that acronym. Are they right? Are they wrong? Is this I guess the only answer I have to that is that I don't know if they're right or wrong.
Let me ground it just a little further.
Please.
The people who are being thrown out on the street, the law does cover them. The law says if you're going to release someone or fire someone, they are entitled to due process. That
Yes.
due process is a right to a hearing, a right to present their case, a right to be told why they're being fired. What's happening here is people are being fired and told it's because they were not up to par as a person. Well, that's a boilerplate thing that they're sticking into every firing without any analysis of that person's record or what they've achieved or what they contribute or what they can contribute in the future. All of that is wiped out because Doge has taken control of the US government. That's what's going on here.
I don't.
The reason for this, I've chosen this type of meeting today was for us as nobles to look at all situation. And as we continue to move the kingdom forward, to restore the nation, reclaim everything that belongs to the kingdom, we are better suited, better educated, more aware of things we don't want to do, things we've seen that did not work. And those things that work, we adapt. My grandmaster, who was Richard Palimo'o, who taught me Kung Fu and throughout my life, start from judo, then aikido and different disciplines, used to say that knowledge is never fleeting. Knowledge is always there in the moment. Pain is knowledge. Success is knowledge. Everything around you is knowledge. And that knowledge becomes wisdom. And that wisdom becomes that one strong pillar that creates your character. I'll never forget that of my Sigun. And he said I will continue it. But thank you, all of you. I love a healthy debate. I'm glad that we're having this discussion because it is important that we analyze things as nobles, and as we get to our contracts and things that we are headed to, then we now become more stronger in understanding each other. Dustin, you had a question?
Yeah, so I would just want to try to add about that because I'm being approached by the administration, by Stargate, Orion Group, because they're looking for projects and they're looking for different types of technologies to assist in the projects that they're working in. And I'm not doing it because of a person or because of leadership, because as a technologist, it doesn't matter who, you're agnostic as to the leadership, because the way that you are as an American is you're an American and it's for the people. It's for creating unity. And I think that that's one of the points that we have to always remember is that when we have leadership, is that leadership creating unity or is it destroying unity? And like Lenny was also saying, when you have a government system, there is a mentorship of knowledge. When you're talking about intelligence agencies, intelligence agency isn't just what an AI can introduce and say, oh, it's going to, understand this, because it takes people that have relationships, that have networks that go into different locations. When you gut an entire government organization or agency, you're basically losing that wisdom and that knowledge that the king was speaking of. So there is no new person that can come in that has a mentor to teach them the rules of the road. And I think that that's part of the problem that we're seeing here is that where is the mentorship? Where is the passing of the torch? And where is the unity of an American backing an American, because we are the people of kind hearts that's trying to give to others. Okay, that's my goal of, even though I don't necessarily approve of a lot of the actions that I see, like you were talking about, Michael, where you don't approve of everything that you're seeing. At the same time, it's not necessarily our place to make those decisions. We have to make the best of what we have. And for me, making the best of what I have is what I can do to affect people's lives. So I think that the way we should look at this is about how do we create unity globally? Because isolation is where you're going to have the weakest America, because if we're pushing Europe back, okay, and we push back on NATO, what happens to Article 5? What happens if we do have an attack from wherever? We don't have backup. Do you think Canada's coming? Do you think Mexico's coming? No, we're trying to make them states. So we don't have backup. you know, and that's what it is strength in numbers, especially
Right.
when it comes to war. And the whole world is on that verge. So we need to be aligning allies and honestly kissing ass to people that we have, like you said, the Biden administration has been a horrible disaster. And I think we can all agree with that. But what we needed and what we need now is true leadership, that someone that's going to come in and join all of us together so that we can all come together. Right now, what we have is we have our asses being handed to us by BRICS. And BRICS is taking over every nation. Right now, over 70% of the world population is a part of BRICS, not the US dollar. So we don't have the economic strength. They're gutting the knowledge base of an entire nation, so we don't have the technology strength. Amy just spoke to somebody earlier this morning that came over from Turkey that is staying over here in America. And what she said is that we are so behind on our technology side, even our cell phones are way behind to everything that they have over in Europe and even in Turkey. So where are we?
And one last thing I'd like to add is I actually was happy that Trump was going to be auditing through Doge, and the audits I think are very important because everything's been running rampant for 10, 20 years and with no accountability. And that was very bad. And the auditing is good. I did not realize until the last week of all the firings that he's doing, because I had a call with my CPA yesterday who was furious because many of his clients had lost their jobs for no reason whatsoever. They shut down the entire division that was going to be supporting the national forest when there was fires. There's a lot of things going on. So I am sad to see the firings, but I'm happy to see the audits going on and what the intent of what I thought that division was for. And so there's pluses and minuses, but I'm hoping eventually that, like Dustin said, if we come together, if we do is whatever we can, I hope that he realizes, that Trump realizes there's pluses and minuses, and he can't just lose the quality of the education and the knowledge and the experience of the people in those positions.
Thank you,
And
guys.
if you're really looking at what they're trying to accomplish, and I understand part of what he's accomplishing, but it's so single-minded instead of looking at the greater picture. What I see him trying to do is trying to cut down the cost points, because that's what he knows, is he knows cost points as what he's done in his business. He cuts costs by hiring and firing everybody that he can and not paying the people that have already done work. That's his MO. I've worked with people that have built casinos with him, and they haven't been paid because he just decides not to pay them and say, suits me. But the point of what we're trying to get to is that we have to create that unity. And by bringing in these different systems, you can do that. So what I feel he's trying to do is lower the output of government costs so that he can have a reason for doing his tax program. Okay, if you plan on getting rid of state tax, federal tax, and every other tax that's out there, where are you going to get your money? You're not going to get it just from creating tariffs. So you're going to have to do other extreme things. So what are those extreme things? And unfortunately, the $5 million gold card isn't going to create a counterbalance to what's already there. If you're spending $800,000 to $1 million currently for EB5, you're going to have 500 people. If you have 5 million, you're going to have 10. So did you have a net gain or a net loss? And that's the ideas that we need to look at, is how do we create the net gains that are for the American people? And I think that that's the point that we need to try to focus on.
Thank you.
Your Majesty,
Yes. Hi, John.
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I guess the other point I think we need to look at is that sometimes I think we're confusing things in this. When we talk about EB5 or the gold card, that was really set up for economic development, how to bring people in to targeted areas to create jobs and so on. The green card, or if you look at the H-1B visa card, is where an employer could bring someone in to work for them in a specific area. Whereas under EB5, if they put their $1,050,000 or $800,000 up, they could travel and work for anyone or do anything. So I think the green card, I do not believe is going to be replaced from what I'm hearing from my friends in Washington. It's just that for the economic side of the EB-5, they want to increase that. I don't think they're going to touch the lower end. I think this is for higher end. And the other thing I'm hearing is that this could be sort of a cover to bring people in who have committed crimes under human trafficking and other ways to get them into the States so we have jurisdiction over them now. I think we have to look at the bigger picture of what's happening.
Thank you, John. That I don't share those sentiments here, because what I'm reading here is that the gold card is to replace the green card. That's what I'm reading here now. This is on X. And
But that's what he says. But you got to remember, President Trump sometimes mixes acronyms because, you know, he speaks right away and he doesn't come, he's prepared, but he's not really prepared. And sometimes he goes off the top. I don't think.
But I can only,
replace.
John, I can only debate what he says and what I'm reading.
It's the green card.
But thank you, John. John, are you done?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. No, is there something else you'd like to say before we move on? Thank you.
Nope, that's good. Thank you.
Nice to hear you.
Yes,
How's
please.
your life going? Everything good? Okay. Aloha, Stephen.
Hello, King Silva. I'm here with my administrative assistant, Jeremy McGrew.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, King Silva. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure,
Yeah.
honor to meet all of you.
Yeah. Well, I must agree with Lanny, what Lanny said. Because Trump is someone I know personally. I dealt with Trump in when I first moved to Oregon. I was in his university program. You know, so I know him. Back then, I thought he would have been a great president back then, but now from what I'm seeing, he's doing crazy things, making crazy moves. So now the people that I'm talking to on top of the watch parties, a lot of people here in Hawaii and around the world abroad are worried. You know, and like how the other guy was talking about the minerals. I mean, how would he feel if he had his land and he has water, lots of water? Water is a mineral. How would he feel if somebody say, "Hey, I want your water. I want your minerals"? How would he feel? You know, so that's terrible. What Trump wants to do, he's doing what happened with the Vietnam War. You know, America was there after the minerals, after the nickel deposits and all that, and the copper and all that. You know, they were rich in Vietnam. You know, so he's aligning himself with Russia. You know, and hey, that's, well, I must call it like I said, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. What he's doing is wrong.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, just to the people, they're all waiting for you to get back, you know, and you know, so we're here in support of you.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Mahalo. Tanya, Shule, would you like to say anything? Aloha.
Aloha. It's an honor to be here today and to hear all of you. I'm not an academic, and though I grew up in politics, my father was a politician provincially here in British Columbia, Canada. I've led quite a different life, one completely guided by spirit. Since I was a little girl, it was clear to me that the world is not as it's meant to be. And from one country to the next, and from one dream to the next, and one whisper in the ear to the next, I've been guided through Hollywood, through the transhumanism community, through the mysteries of ancient Egypt, through the medical system, through the education system. And I've seen what I believe to be the truth of what's actually there, that we've been dangerously misguided, not as Americans or Canadians, but as humans for a very, very long time. And in regards to the topic at hand, our character Trump, in my opinion, he is the great disruptor. He holds the card of the fool. And if you understand the tarot or these things, every card has its role. So though when he first came into office, I was dumbfounded at how that could be, I was soon given visions and dreams. And that's how it's worked for me. I've done work with Putin in the dream world, and I've done work with other leaders in the dream world. And when it was time for me to go to meet with the indigenous in Peru, it came through the dreams, through an invitation. And though it caused me great confusion, my dream was telling me that Trump was a man of integrity. And so I quietly, very quietly sat with that for a very long time. And certainly I do not agree with all of his actions, that is for sure. I have learned to look carefully and to listen carefully. I'm sure we're all well aware that the media is owned and operated by those who wish to manipulate our thoughts.
Hold on 1 second, please. Can all of you turn the mic on, please? Thank you. John? Stephen, turn your mic off, please, if it's not off. Thank you. I should have, one second. I should have called Auntie Victoria so she could introduce you. Hold on 1 second. Auntie Victoria?
Aloha. Aloha, everyone. Mahalo for allowing me into this space. I have worked just recently with Shule, and we have made spiritual connection in all these things with much love, peace, and respect for one another and everyone that we touch, and of course, of the world. Shule has brought connections in the spiritual line of our people in a space that we can speak our mind with love and understanding where our point of view needs to be. Shule has allowed our space to increase with much hope and dignity for one another. Still allow us to deny, not to dwell on negative things, but take those things into consideration and make it for the best and make it pono, make it right. Shule has brought many of us together, and all these times that I have shared private and personal relation and conversation, she now knows who I am. I'd like to introduce you to Shule. She has much connection to our elders where we need to be. The elders are the ones to build a foundation for where we stand. The elders are the voices that should be listened to in every part of government. But yet, we still continue to do this within our community and in our countries because we love our people so much. I'd like to introduce you to Shule. Mahalo nui e ana Shule. And before we start, I would like to offer this pule, this oli, e ioe, and I've done this prayer before. This prayer is of knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom in all that we do, and how we gain knowledge and wisdom, and how we utilize that wisdom and knowledge to prosper, not for ourselves, but for Akua. For he gives us the strength and foundation that helps guide us together with our elders. Eo. Hey, yo, ku e manue, ke alua kunei ka pule ia hakalau. Kuli ia ka lani ia uli, ia namu, ia naue. Ka nehi iluna, ka nehi ilalo, ka kau, ka hema kumakani ha'i kalani. He kili ka'i talani. Kawila nui ma ke hai talani. Pane talani e ola ke kanaka. O mai ka loea, ka ike, ka mana. Ia e ka honuala. O bahalau ali'i. O kahi I waihuai ka waolelo. Eli tamai. Mama wandu. We will continue and I give you breakdown of this only so we can all understand our pathway and to be guided and to come together as one mind, one heart, one spirit. Aloha Shule.
Mahalo. I thank you for bringing us back to the center. Mahalo nui loa. Tanya, Shule, please.
Mahalo nui, Auntie Vicky. It's so beautiful to feel you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me into this circle in such a way. And it really is where my heart lies, is with Auntie Vicky, and in the rebuilding, not only of Lahaina and the true kingdom of Hawaii, but all of Earth. We are in this stage and phase of creating new Earth. And our reality is what we make it. Where we put our focus is what we see on the screen in front of us. So though it's important to debate and understand and to pick up the rocks and to look underneath and to examine, where does the heart lie? If the fear and the contraction comes in, we are stopped and we are owned. So if the heart is open and the mind is open to the possibilities, what other reason could this crazy act be about? Why might these people be being removed from their place in such a bold way? I don't know. I don't pretend to know, but I do ask. I do ask at this point, because I know that nothing appears as it seems. There's always something else going on there. There's a lot of symbolism in this world. There are a lot of motions and signs going on in between everything that aren't only the words that are spoken or the words written on the paper. So I'm living my life from that place at this stage. And I'm here to support the Indigenous elders, to give voice back in corrected history and right relationship, so that we can hear the hearts of the wisdom keepers to know where it is we're meant to move forward next. When I sit around the kitchen table with Auntie Vicky and she tells me about the movement of the water and the stones and how the trees and the roots, I mean, there's nobody better to rebuild than that incredible woman. That elder, she holds so much within her core, in her frequency. You hear it when she prays. We're all affected by that on a cellular level. Things begin to shift within us. Things begin to open within us so that a greater reality can unfold. And so I'm listening with 2 ears and a wide open heart to everything spoken here, with great respect and understanding for all of the views that come to the table based on all of the pieces from our history, from our cultures, from our countries that have trained us to think and feel in a certain way, including myself. And so how do we begin to remove those pieces that seem locked in and allow ourselves a slightly more open perspective and ability to feel first beyond the reaction, from that still point, as you said, King, to bring us back to the center.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Aloha. Mahalo. I'm going to move on from this topic and go to item number 2. That was a deep concern with the people I spoke to in Hawaii just recently about China's Navy presence near the coast of Japan, the Philippines, and Hawaii. That China is currently right there. And I have pictures of their vast vessels there in Hawaii right now. And even in Hawaii, and it's primarily through certain territorial claims in East and South China Seas. uh, I don't have much more information about as to why they're there, or we can only assume, but I don't like assumptions. But obviously, it's we know that's to control the ocean. That's specifically why these naval vessels are there, and they're larger than the naval vessels today that we see out there with that's from other nations. But is there anybody have any input on the more presence of China's vessels? We know that they're along the Panama area. We know that they're in Japan. We know they're on the Philippines. We know that they're on the Taiwan coast. They're actually everywhere. And yes, the U.S. military is also everywhere. The U.S. military is everywhere as well. So what is this leading to? I don't know yet, but we will certainly find out. Anybody have any questions regarding that? Because I don't have any answers to give. Third, that's really important is the question, the statement I made was, why did the U.S. want to control the Hawaiian Kingdom? That's a very good question. America's annexation of Hawaii in 1898 extended U.S. territory into the Pacific and highlighted the result of economic integration and the rise of the United States as a specific power. You can find this in Wikipedia as well. So what is here is already documented. For most of the 1800s, leaders in Washington were concerned that Hawaii might become part of European nations' empire. And if you know the history, Great Britain was there, Paulette on his ships, etc., that they held Hawaii for a time until King Kamehameha III came out, and while the kingdom was returned back to Kamehameha III, in which he immortalized the words "Uamau ke'ia o ka'aina I kopono," which means the land of the people is perpetuated or preserved in righteousness. And that began that new quest to the understanding of what happened when Great Britain had control of the Hawaiian Islands for approximately 6 months. That control. Depending on where you find information, I found the information was 6 months rather than 4. And this is the exact history. So the United States did not want Europe to have any control of the Hawaiian Islands. So therefore, they basically seized it. They held it for that purpose. At one point, it wasn't because of Pearl Harbor, because of the bay there. It was because they didn't want any European country to own the Hawaiian Islands, that the United States took control of that. Because Grover Cleveland, at that prior to that, told the U.S. Congress that there was a grave injustice made to the Hawaiian people, and that the island should be returned back to its people. Those are easy to research because it's all over the website from many scholars from years past, from Keanu Sai, whom I believe that his theses are very well prepared as to the overthrow of what he's done. I believe that he comes from a good place in his heart to explain what had happened to the kingdom. And there's other leaders and other people that have also voiced their opinions regarding the real reason why Hawaii was stolen. Some would say that Hawaiian Islands were not stolen or was given up, and that's not true. But the point is, I need for all of you to study the history of Hawaii, because from 2 weeks from today, I'm going to put some questions there. I expect you to give me the answer, and I will tell you, I will be very, very critical of those answers. And that will determine, just to let you know, that will determine whether you have a contract with me to move with me in the nation of the Kingdom of Hawaii forward. Because you cannot serve a group of people or a nation if you don't understand its history, its culture, and the things that they went through, you must understand the logic behind the thinking. In order for there to be a true government of and for the people, you must understand its people. You must understand its history. You have to walk in their shoes, so to speak, not literally, but spiritually. Walk in their shoes. As with all other indigenous nations, Hawaii is the same. So 2 weeks from today, I will ask, there'll be 4 questions. You won't know them now, but you don't know what I'm gonna ask until I'll send you the link 3 days prior to our meeting. So you'll have 3 additional days to plan. And I will say that that's gonna be very, very critical for all of you to understand my words. Any questions about this? Again, as Tanya said, the things aren't always what they seem when you look here, but when you feel here, you can see and learn more about what's going on and how you feel about the world. And so we're going to have our Minister of the Interior, Michael Proper, and he will continue sharing his thoughts about the digital technology, its impact on the world and how it can benefit the kingdom, and other subject matters that he has in place. And I would like him to pause at some point and to ask questions. And after he's done, Auntie Victoria will give the closing prayer. Prior to going to him, I sent you folks a link about the Chinese warships and where it's being stationed now. I don't know if you folks have seen that, but just this morning, today, I did receive a briefing now, a briefing that additional vessels were seen supporting the vessels that's already there. So for some reason, it's being built up even more. So rather than 3 there, there's 5 there in Hawaiian waters, 5 vessels, and the Philippines as well. So they're shoring up and building their presence, if you will, on these areas. I'm not sure it's for strategic reasons or what. I do know that back in 2018, Lanny and I worked on this, where North Korea threatened to send missiles and threaten war, and all that rhetoric went on. I sent a letter to North Korea. Lanny and I worked on it for them to stand down, and that Hawaii is a nation of people whose lands were summarily taken, and that as much as we detest war, we don't want war. We don't want, not even for or against the United States or any country. Hawaii is not part of any of this politics that's going basically that. The letter was much more detailed. You can find it on a website that was sent to Kim Jong-un at that time. So before we move on to Michael, Dr. Cox, do you have any questions? Nice to see you. Meg, do you have any questions? Hello? Melissa? I can't hear her. Okay. Michael, please.
Thank you, Your Highness. I'll go ahead and share my screen now. And
Can you go off? You're muted.
thank you, Your Highness. You should be able to see my screen. And before I start, I just want to say thank you and welcome to the new individuals that are here, and for Auntie Victoria. I don't know if I assume that you met in Peru and hearts just aligned, and that's kind of how we got to this point. But welcome, welcome. It looks like there's a long history of paths that have already been aligned with Phil Lane Jr. and some of the other work that's happened down in the reunion of the Eagle and the Condor between the North and the South. The work that is here with the Kingdom of Hawaii, I look at as the work between the East and the West that aligns with the work of the indigenous, particularly of the Quetzalcoatl and the reunion of the Eagle and Condor. And it's 20 plus years that I, as an individual, have been involved in that. But this work is something that has gone on a lot longer than 20 years or just dispensation over dispensation and generations of time. We're talking specifically, my role in this environment is around Interior, as the Minister of Interior, specifically with the Department of Interior, which would take ownership around systems and processes that enable an ecosystem like the kingdom to actually operate. So identity is usually the start. So everything starts with identity, whether that's an individual's identity. Those things also tie to new lives that are brought into the world and how they're brought from a standpoint of a name is a very sacred thing, not something to just be shared. And especially when we talk about it with in a digital ecosystem, it's something that is very imperative. So give me just a quick second here. So with that being said, the things that we'll jump onto or focus in on we'll go to Hawaii.country and some of these systems around whether it's citizenship, whether it's being a national or just a member of the Kingdom of Hawaii, as well as identity systems, whether these are identity cards, birth certificates, whether they are related to driver's licenses or even passports, and then a financial system, so a monetary system, and specifically a monetary system that is not just something that is of the past or built on principles that are fluctuating, but I believe built on true and correct principles that create transparency, especially as it ties the physical world and the digital world, which we will all have an opportunity, hopefully in our lifetime, to be able to go through if our days are long, so to speak. So identity is key. Businesses are key. So the ability for businesses to basically be able to be created just like an individual, but at the same time to be transparent and honest. So a lot of the things that we see within society today are really done by secret combinations. And if we look at Vanguard or BlackRock or some of the other ecosystems within that environment, businesses are really controlled, at least real businesses. Frito-Lay, you could tie into a lot of the different organizations you would think that aren't, like Dell, or well, I think they've actually gone private since then. But a lot of these different organizations that have been controlled by secret combinations, primarily at the shareholder level, I believe the Hawaiian Kingdom or the Kingdom of Hawaii has an opportunity to be able to provide not just transparency for the individual, but transparency for businesses, and then how businesses actually create digital environments and digital businesses that then tie to the future, which we'll see unroll right in front of our eyes. To how we actually travel. We're sovereign individuals. It is a human right to be able to travel, not just as an individual, but as a humanity, as well as to be able to transact, as well as to be able to be private. And so those are the core areas that I'm personally focused on with others within it. This last week, we had an amazing opportunity to be able to visit what we believe will eventually, hopefully, become what we look at from a vaulting standpoint and a minting standpoint for the currency of the Hawaiian Kingdom or the Kingdom of Hawaii. This organization already does Samoa, does elements of Tonga, with another organization that I've already met with. These are both within the Midwest of the United States of America. They also do Niue, as well as 8 different countries in the Caribbean. And it's how they can actually tie with a physical element that the world recognizes as value. I personally don't see a lot of value in silver and gold, but I see a lot of value as far as a extractment of energy that the world can agree upon around what these minerals or elements actually relate to. I think this directly relates to some of the topics that were touched on earlier. I don't think it's appropriate to have religious or political topics wrapped into what the spirit of aloha really is and the kingdom of Hawaii really is. I believe that these things are of man and they create division, with kingdoms and principalities being controlled by power and silver and gold that can reign that's inappropriate. And that's one of the reasons I love what the king is all about. He's not about these things, but at the things that's controlled by man. But if we basically take a physical asset and represent it with a digital receipt, so these are all the states in the United States and many others, take these different assets and we link them to the same value exchange that the existing system links to. For instance, I believe between now and the next meeting, we will go through an audit of the Federal Reserve. And I believe that what we could actually stand up within His Majesty's kingdom and the kingdom of Hawaii can actually represent what the future of value, not necessarily money, but value will be. And it will constitute a physical element as well as a digital element that will tie to that. And with that being said, it's really important to understand really the Hawaiian dollar and what it can do, how it works, how it operates. If anyone would like real time, I can do an example of what it is. By the way, I'm sharing the Kingdom of Hawaii. This is just a general council meeting. Every 2 weeks, we'll have the link, we'll have a description, we'll have an agenda, and then we can share our perspectives. For instance, this last conversation, even though we're here in one heart and one mind and even in the same spirit, we come to this with different intents. And I think the ability to separate those perspectives of the intents is to really help align humanity with the law, with love, because that's what can actually set us free. And sometimes when votes or perspectives are shared in such a way they were today, it can be difficult. But through a simple, I actually agree or disagree with this, and the ability to have a voice that can be independent, which, by the way, these same systems are rolled out in different environments. So you can see them. For instance, the voting, I think, is one of the most powerful ones in the Mexican.country environment. So that one's actually expired. I'll give you an example of one let's see if this one's not expired. Would anyone like to actually do a Hawaiian dollar transaction? If so, just go ahead and log into your Hawaiian Life app. If you don't have the Hawaiian Life app, so you can see that one was actually successful, so you'll see a vote that pops in. But if you don't have a Hawaiian Life app, I'm getting some feedback there. I urge you just to grab one. But if you do, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and send it so the rest of the body can actually understand really the future of a monetary system as it relates to how we can actually transact. And so that's an important topic. There's also some elements of a framework and this is all drafted. None of this is production based, but something that this body should definitely review as it relates to how those things can actually be impacted. So I'd like to take this opportunity, especially why folks, if you want to get your Hawaiian Life app up and a dollar done, or at least a transaction completed, go ahead and do so while we read this. And again, this is a draft framework, but this constitutes basically the types of items that we just discussed in a framework that can actually be rolled out in an environment where we respect the existing cultures and authorities that are there, but at the same time assert our own sovereign and the freedom that aloha and the spirit of the Hawaiian kingdom or the kingdom of Hawaii can actually enable. So here we go.
The Kingdom of Hawaii Sovereign Recognition and Reciprocity Framework. Preamble. Whereas the Kingdom of Hawaii recognizes the principles of peaceful coexistence, human rights, and self-governance, this framework establishes policies for identification, registration, licensing, and travel. It upholds the inherent rights to quiet enjoyment, free movement, privacy, and the right to transact, ensuring that participation in Hawaiian governance remains voluntary and free of forced compliance. This declaration asserts the Kingdom's rights under Hawaiian and international law, while respecting mutual recognition of documents and registrations issued by U.S. states and other foreign entities. Article 1. Sovereign recognition and identification. The Kingdom of Hawaii identification card and passport shall serve as official proof of identity, citizenship, citizenship and residency for members, citizens, and nationals of the kingdom. Non-members, visitors, and residents who have not yet opted into kingdom governance may use their existing identification while within the kingdom. The kingdom's identification documents shall be recognized by U.S. states and other jurisdictions under the principles of peaceful coexistence and reciprocity. U.S. and foreign identification documents shall be accepted within the kingdom for verification purposes, but such documents do not grant Hawaiian citizenship or governance rights. Privacy protections shall be upheld for all individuals utilizing kingdom-issued identification, ensuring no personal data is shared, stored, or exploited without explicit consent. Article 2. Right to travel and driver's license recognition. The Kingdom of Hawaii affirms the right to travel is fundamental, adhering to international legal standards. Travelers operating personal or commercial vehicles within the kingdom must possess valid driver's licenses, either from the Kingdom of Hawaii, U.S. states, or valid foreign authorities. The Kingdom of Hawaii driver's license is available for residents, citizens, and nationals, providing an official credential for operating motor vehicles within the kingdom's jurisdiction. U.S. state driver's licenses and foreign driving permits shall be honored for temporary visitors and non-residents. Commercial driving activities, including taxi services, freight transport, and public transportation, must comply with kingdom licensing requirements. All travel and vehicle registration records shall be secured under strict privacy measures to prevent unauthorized access or tracking. Article 3. Vehicle registration and license plates. The Kingdom of Hawaii shall issue vehicle registrations and license plates for members, citizens, and nationals who register their vehicles under the kingdom's authority. Visitors and non-members may continue to use their U.S. registered or foreign registered vehicles without re-registration for temporary stays. Members, residents, and nationals under the governance of the kingdom must maintain valid registrations either through the kingdom or their prior external registrations. Commercial vehicles operating in the kingdom, including those used for business purposes, must meet kingdom-specific registration requirements. The kingdom ensures privacy and data security within its vehicle registration system, protecting vehicle ownership information from unauthorized access. Article 4. Business professional licensing. Businesses and professionals operating within the kingdom are required to obtain kingdom-issued licenses if they choose to operate under Hawaiian jurisdiction. Licensed professionals from U.S. states or foreign jurisdictions may apply for license equivalency recognition within the kingdom. When applicable, licensing under the kingdom is governed by standards necessary for public health, safety, and commercial integrity. Business transactions will be protected under privacy rights, ensuring financial and commercial activities remain free from unnecessary oversight or tracking. Article 5. Legal distinction, sovereignty and privacy. The Kingdom of Hawaii operates independently of its legal and political structures, affirming its governance based on historical and constitutional legitimacy. Hawaiian and U.S. documents, registrations, and licenses shall be cross-recognized on the basis of mutual respect and peaceful coexistence, not submission to external authority. No individual shall be compelled to accept kingdom-issued identification, registration, or licensing without voluntarily opting into kingdom governance. The kingdom shall not enforce foreign laws or mandates within its jurisdiction, protecting non-members from being subject to kingdom rules unless they so choose. The kingdom upholds privacy as a fundamental human right, applying it to all governmental and commercial interactions. Article 6. Financial transactions and the Kingdom of Hawaii recognizes the dollar. Dollar is its official currency for transactions within the kingdom. All individuals, businesses, and government agencies in the kingdom have the right to conduct transactions in dollar without restrictions or foreign interference. The Hawaiian Mint will oversee the issuance and backing of the dollar, ensuring its value is maintained through gold, silver, and other precious metals, elements, and commodities. In addition to tangible assets, the dollar will also be backed by aloha, symbolizing the spirit of peace, privacy, exploration, connection, and all that aloha represents. This ensures proper digital data integrity, strengthens the foundation of trust, and promotes prosperity under the ethos of aloha. The Hawaiian Treasury shall manage national reserves and provide secure banking services for kingdom transactions. The Hawaiian DMV, Hawaiian Insurance Authority, and Hawaiian Securities Commission shall oversee vehicle registration, financial protections, and asset-based securities within the kingdom. Privacy in financial transactions will be strictly enforced, ensuring individuals and businesses can operate without surveillance or external control. Digital transactions using the dollar will be encrypted and decentralized, promoting security and sovereignty in financial exchanges. Article 7. Implementation and non-interference. The Kingdom of Hawaii shall operate under the principles of quiet deployment, self-governance, and non-interference in its dealings with external entities. This framework does not require the approval of the U.S. or any foreign authority but stands as a unilateral policy of the kingdom. Individuals, businesses, and governments engaging with the kingdom understand that participation is voluntary, based on mutual recognition and peaceful cooperation. Conclusion. This framework formalizes the Hawaii's approach to sovereignty, ensuring its identification, licensing, and registration systems meet the practical needs of governance while providing pathways for individuals and entities seeking involvement. Peaceful coexistence and mutual recognition with U.S. states and other jurisdictions are emphasized, while safeguarding the kingdom's autonomy, human rights, and the rights to privacy, travel, and financial transactions through the dollar. Backed by both tangible assets and the enduring values of aloha, the dollar affirms the commitment to prosperity, connection, and integrity in governance and transactions, issued by the Kingdom of Hawaii.
It's important to note the spirit and intent of what this is really about and for. The ability for us to basically start afresh, right, as systems are being created within the digital ecosystem is really imperative. And what I mean by that is a lot of the things that are happening both outside of the United States of America and inside the United States of America are going to impact in a positive way the Kingdom of Hawaii, specifically as it stands up, because it's already past a lot of the noise that all of these environments are basically working through, particularly in the state of Utah and the state of Wyoming and in one region within the United Arab Emirates. They've already acknowledged and passed through state and federal approvals to recognize decentralized autonomous organizations. And a lot of people struggle to understand what that is, and I'll try and do my best job to just explain it, and then we'll go through Q&A. The ability for an individual to be able to be in the digital world and be sovereign and independent and private through a decentralized process is imperative, because the alternative to that is basically an identity. So imagine most all humans have already been in a tracking system digitally. You combine that with systems that are going to track and surveil transactions, because that's where, and I don't necessarily align with where Trump and the administration is going on this particular topic, because it's actually going to enslave humanity, as well as Stargate and all of these other systems that are basically taking data and moving them together through artificial intelligence to control and enslave humanity. And that's what I personally am emphatically in disagreement with, and will dedicate my life to enable that people can actually be private and sovereign. And the way that it rolls out is this: everything actually becomes digital. But what doesn't become digital is the decentralized identity of an individual, which is a combination of an encryption key and a fingerprint or a face scan. Now, the fingerprint and face scan, I feel, are absolutely inappropriate, but the combination of them with an encryption key that has derived keys where machine learning or artificial intelligence cannot follow is what will set the Kingdom of Hawaii apart from any other jurisdiction today. And in the future, other jurisdictions can actually align with the same technology, whether it's Vanuatu, Tuvalu, Fiji, Samoa, Rarotonga, Atutaki, some of the new world stuff that others are working on, or existing infrastructures of kingdoms, nations, principalities, however you want to look at it. Maybe it's a community. But the ability to be able to transact in this ecosystem in real time with no fees, no government, total privacy, as well as no delay, is really where the future will adopt. The alternative to this will be a centralized system that people will actually be paid to be a part of. And if being paid to be a part of it, or to be guaranteed some form of a role, is a part of what, the centralized systems basically pop out and where people gravitate to, it'll be that counterbalance where individuals want to be free, but they also want to be accountable. They want to do what is right from their own hearts. Now, if they're breaking laws or doing things that are criminal, and those things just don't work within this environment. And the document that we read before is something that doesn't need to be enforced by force of law. It just is enforced by adoption, by merchants and buyers and sellers coming together and saying, this is the system I'm going to use. And by humanity coming together and saying, it doesn't feel right to be controlled because of where I was born. We're talking about some program for a passport. I would argue that the fundamental need for the passport is what's broken. It's not, does it cost $5 or $5 million? It's the basis for the need to be able to travel as one family on one earth in many bodies and many different spirits, but ultimately we are a family. We share this experience on this amazing earth, and to be able to be blocked from traveling or transacting or from privacy is wrong. One of the things that we need to have some urgency around is there's going to be, what is that? You have an ID that has a gold star on it. It's called Real ID. And it comes from, let me see if I'm going to find the deadline. There's a countdown here in May. So this deadline, and this is one thing that's not being changed, which I personally have massive concerns with. In 66 days and 10 hours, we're basically going to be enforced. This is the third time this date has been pushed over the last 15 years. And what it is this little star here will be forced to actually have, if you want to travel, you'll have to have a minimum of an ID, if not a passport. And this is really where I believe that the Kingdom of Hawaii can stand up with a model that can actually be a true and correct principle, where an individual can actually be a part of a kingdom that is under Akua. And that's one of the reasons I love our king here. He he gives all rights and responsibility and authority to Akua, God, who we're all under. And that God may mean something different to each one of us. We may have different terms, we may have different understandings, but in the end, we're here on earth together. We can't argue that. We're here on earth, and yes, there's elections, and yes, there's religions, and yes, there's politics, but that doesn't have to be anything to do with what the Kingdom of Hawaii stood for or stands for. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to provide this report out for all of you. I know it may have been, the prior conversation may have been difficult, but I'm grateful to even be able to share my perspective with you. And any kapuna or elders, please take my words with utter respect, but just as an individual that tries to serve Akua and all in the right spirit and the right intent, knowing clearly what is happening within societies and with control, and knowing that we're here to learn, to choose right from wrong. We're not here to dictate or judge one another what right from wrong is, but we're here to choose and to learn from our choices. And with that, I would ask if anyone has questions or anything that you would like me to review again or go back through.
Michael, thank you. Thank you. You know, for many years, Michael, this is a question I'm going to ask you because I appreciate where you're coming from. But for many years, because we're looking at establishing a foundation of peace, that policies in world politics has been peace through strength. I'm going to repeat that. Peace through strength. How can we make sense of that? How have we made sense of that? I have been pondering that for such a long time, because every time you go back in history and you hear the neocons and everyone talking, they're always, and as a country, we have defended with 50,000 in Vietnam, and I participated. Okay, so for us to have this to have this paradigm shift, we have to change that peace through strength. Because in our Kapuna's culture, that was not it. The Puna was a sanctuary where no arms, no battle, no hate. You cannot go into that sanctuary, that garden of 7 generations, okay, with any sense of taking a life. Because that's the responsibility of that God Lono. And maybe I can share something with you. It goes, O Lono of the air, you speak in many ways. Soft and wild, you sound through birds and trees. Your reverent music rings through waterfalls. Let us hear you, let us see you, so that our source is as real as ourselves. That's power that doesn't include strength. So, you know, I'm kind of with all of this, until we change that simplicity. I like to bring things down to the simplicity. So until we as a country, and that's why I sent you, Lenny, that note the other day about that, you know, because I'm hearing it in all of the politics, in the narrative of the history of this country, that we have established ourselves after the war, peace through strength. And that was not the legacy of the Kupunas and the Mo'is of this culture, even though we were great warriors. So how we apply that to the AI generation? How do you bring in that?
I actually believe that every word that you've spoken is absolutely emphatically true and correct. As a matter of fact, it's the basis of why I am willing and have chosen to dedicate my life to bringing that about. And I would say that it's not through
Because
It-
there's a sense in my teaching. Is that what I see in you, Michael? Is what I like and dislike about myself. Okay, because I cannot crawl in your skin and speak for you.
I would say that peace through strength is the wrong way, and it's the way that the kingdom of Hawaii was stolen and oppressed. But I believe that your ancestors and those that have gone before, that have been covenant keeping people, they laid down their war items. They laid down their commitment to have bloodshed. And I would say that the way to be able to bring back, not through restoration, because this is not about restoration, because the kingdom never died. It doesn't need to be restored. It needs to be reunited to the point that we're bringing up. But I would say that it's peace through choice and through enabling people to choose one path or another is the basis for us to be here, and the basis for the kingdom of Hawaii to have the right to stand up and say, enough is enough. The Second World War started with bombs dropping on Oahu, and many invasions, not just in that, not there, or even in what you went through with Vietnam. I agree with you that these secret combinations create war to create confusion.
See, from that veteran's point of view, as a Vietnam veteran, okay, communism did not take over my country.
Mhm.
Vietnam is a beautiful country to visit today. And over 50,000 of my generation. So that affects an indigenous warrior. That affects an indigenous warrior. Okay. And that responsibility falls upon us. And in my culture, that responsibility falls on His Majesty.
You know, I had the opportunity to live.
For us to
Go ahead.
now to find, as nations of the world, to find the center of peace. You know, it's like the Korean War, the 38 parallel. It moved several times. But in the sanctuary of peace in my culture, it doesn't move. It must sustain itself for 7 generations. And it's about not how we get things done fast, but how we feed the people. We as Americans find our freedom in every single core of ourselves. The freedom to say whatever the hell we want to say what we want to, and disagree with you and have the right to disagree. But as a people, we should come together and find freedom. It's about all of us having freedom, health, freedom that all of our children get educated. See, that's freedom of a people. That's the kind of puhonua I'm talking about. You put away, it has to come to the core of what it is to sustain life. Then peace must be that foundation upon that. I think you can find that if you read in the King's Decree of the Temple of Lono, his perspective, and why I signed it. What I'm saying is that everything you say, I will be judged because what I see in you is what I like and dislike about myself. We all are that way. We just got to be honest about it. You see, in Hawaiian thinking, it's not linear. It's in a circle. Okay, it's not from A to B. It's in a circle. So, you know, it says, Nana ikikumu, look at the source, whatever it is, your source, Michael. Then it says, Nana ikikumu, look at yourself first. And then the third one is to look at the spiritual light within you deeply. See, that is the triangle, the square, the foundation of the 4 gods that any faith can build upon. What that foundation creates is a circle of breath that all things has life. But then we have the ancestral, the triangle, the source, our gods, our ancestors. And then we look for that inner light, that hidden huna. They say kahuna, doctor, teacher, priest, but also means a hidden line. That spiritual knowledge within every family, because every family was a church. So in every family is a church, as a community, what binds the community? A garden. And what connects me and Lenny, because in the Jewish story, it talks about that garden. So there's so much of the technical aspect that you're making in the contribution. Please understand this when we speak as Hawaiian, is not to judge, not to hold you, okay? To disagree. See, it's not what is right or wrong, but when you wear the new paloa, the whale's tooth, the power of breath, and the hair, the ancestral hair of your people, as my king and his ancestors have worn. This means that you have the right of all of those ancestors to speak. And you have the power of the breath, of the great breath of the will. Okay, so it comes with all of that. How do we put that in the AI perspective for this kingdom, for our mo'i? Thank you.
I believe that the future that AI will bring to humanity will actually be through uniting us through genealogy and whakapapa, that we are all one, and that we can learn from the wisdom of the words that you just gave, that we can know that breath and life is unique for all of us and common at the same time, and that these borders and these governments and these monetary systems and things that seek to control and take choice away have nothing to do with our breath and our right to exist. And I believe that your ancestors that suffered, that stood up for what was right, and even the queen that allowed herself to be locked away in her own palace. And this is not something that can be hidden anymore. The archives next to her, the land records, they all prove that what happened was wrong. The question is,
the story of the Congregational Church of 1820, the story of the Catholic Church, the story of the Mormon Church. This is where all faiths gathered. And the Mo'i's ancestors says, this will be a neutral and this country will be a puhonua. And that's the contribution why the temple stands today. And like I said, thank you.
Thank you, guys. The and you both of you honed in on my cousin Lilio. That's an example of peace through strength, is what she did. Not only her, but Commandment Third was peace through strength, and I can go down in history of all of that. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Palani. Jabbar, are you there? Oh.
I'm here, hello.
I need Jabbar to now give you an update as to what's going on in Cyprus and some of the beautiful things that we're moving forward with, especially obtaining for all my lawyers our indigenous license to practice all over the world. Jabbar, please.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha all. Very emotional meeting today. My heart is almost broken with all the stories which Michael proffered with everybody. But I don't want to miss this. The little one who was brought to, I think, Princess, congratulations on the little one, your grandchild born once again. And interesting things over the past couple of weeks, I've been following up with Cyprus Bar Council and also Athens Bar Council. There is a conditional approval, but again, you will be practicing in Europe, but I have negotiated them with the international bar license for our attorneys. So I think the current attorneys I have is was Attorney Lani, His Majesty, myself and my deputy, and the Chief Justice. So I need to work on the paperwork with them, and then I will take it forward. Likewise, any attorneys who is joining the Kingdom of Hawaii or the IICJ and IICC courts will be part of the licensing. To begin with, as a first step, our licensing has to be approved. So I'm going to work with some of the technologies which Michael Proper has, in terms of issuing identity cards for any attorneys who pass our Bar Council, the Hawaiian Bar Council. It created a lot of test questionnaires. So I'm going to work with Michael Proper and take it forward. So that's the update on the Bar Council. On the discussions which we had with the government officials of Cyprus and Greece, yes, I think you have chosen Cyprus because of historical reasons, the nice, clean history similar to Hawaii. And we are going to work on getting a large mountain dedicated to us, which is a flat land on a high hilltop, preferably a high mountain for the World Peace Center, which will be coming up in the Cyprus region. Again, the benefit you have is close proximity to Europe and access to many of the Middle Eastern leaders and the other American leaders who can come for peace proposition, peacekeeping missions in the World Peace Center. So apart from that, there will be also setting up of the Tree of Life Cancer Hospital. Likewise, we are also, if all the conditions prevail and we are happy with the local laws, we'll also be setting up the IICJ and IICC courts also for the world to approach. So that is what we discussed. And plus, His Majesty, can I go ahead and talk about the residency or not? Or should I keep it for the later stage?
Why don't we just keep it for later, because I want you to focus primarily on the Peace Center. What does this mean? And I'm so excited. This is probably the most excited I've been. I knew that today's meeting would be some solemn and stuff, and I was prepared for that. And that's good, that I can hear the emotions and the things that we went through. I love it because it builds character and brings us unity, brings us together. And before I go that far, Earl right here, he's a master of Kung Fu as well. He's also my director for my Secret Service detail, that he'll be setting up all my security as I begin the full travels around the world, Cyprus, Greece, Athens, and where we're going to be going, Dubai, and be working with the other Secret Service and law enforcement, along with our Attorney General Jabbar. So they'll be coordinating much of my travel arrangements to and from, to make sure that we get in and get out, because the Middle East is kind of volatile right now, and we don't want to be there too long. We just need to go over there and do the peace thing and make it happen. And the history of all of the Middle East is very, very striking. There's similar stories of that, similar to our First Nations people. And if you look closely, there are a lot of similarities there. What I believe, and I'm sure all of you believe the same, is that our Celestial Peace Center that we're creating there, I believe is going to be one that will replace the United Nations. This is where all the world leaders will come. But the Peace Center, and Palani and Lani knows this word, and Palani, who is the keeper of the Temple of Lono, its highest priest, and represents our culture, will also be key in this, because we're going to be structuring, but the Peace Center will be a pu'uhonua. So what is a pu'uhonua? Lani, you want to explain what a pu'uhonua is?
the Pu'uhonua is a place of peace where no conflict is allowed, where people can come to sit down to talk with each other and resolve any problems they may have. And it's ordained basically by the temple so that it is protected and agreed to by all parties. And if we can have some kind of agreement by all parties that the conflict should cease, we can find the way to make that conflict cease. But right now, the Pu'uhonua is a place in waiting that's prepared to step in and help. And will be there as long as necessary.
Thank you. The Pu'uhonua, and I'm going to have Palani talk a little bit about it, is the vision that I see. And to bring the Pu'uhonua, our Peace Center, to Cyprus, to build that, and to bring all the leaders throughout the Middle East there, from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Ethiopia, Egypt, all of them, and to bring them there. Then we can start the process that I believe that we as Hawaiians and our huna and our discussion of the breath of the spirit of aloha, the values that I've learned through Polani about the Temple of Lono and our culture and some all these things, because if we can, not if, but we are, as we bring them together, I truly believe that we can bring peace throughout the Middle East. I truly believe that. I have no doubt about that. And when I was in Turkey, I visited a place called Ephesus. And Ephesus is such a magical place, but it has a lot of destruction and pain and what have you in history that incorporated the Ottoman Empire and how the Ottoman Empire fought against the Christians, the Catholics in particular, and then the Protestants. But it wasn't so much of those fights. What is so important is the end result. The end result is that they agreed to separate. And there's two families there that history doesn't talk about. And that's why in building our Pu'uhonua in Cyprus, we'll bring those families together. And that family is the house of Isaac and the house of Ishmael. That's the Muslims and the Christians. And these are brothers, these are family. There's one big tree with many branches. So in my vision, I saw how all of this translated and the value of bringing that together. And so by that, in building the Pu'uhonua, we've already started talking to other people there that I'll be doing further talking about creating also an embassy for the kingdom there. And so we can move forward. And some of the policies and stuff that's now being created by the Trump administration and all those administrations for Palestinian people and et cetera, like Kuleana, is not what I'm thinking of. What they do, they're going to do. What I believe to do is bring the culture of Hawaii, the Pu'uhonua, and the idea of it back to where it should be. And if the world would understand that the Polynesian people or the First Nations people, they have a lot of wisdom. And as Palani had mentioned so eloquently, my ancestors follow me. I know that without a doubt. They are there. And I'm a descendant of this class, if you will, if you want to classify classes, whatever you want to do. But I'm a descendant of that. And I feel the mana. I feel the strength of it. And I feel emboldened. And therefore, when I spoke about this happening in Cyprus, that made a lot of sense to me, because then you can bring all the Middle East people together. And then we can hear exactly what bothers them, what's going on, and actually hear them, listen. And I believe that's part of the battle. We need to truly listen. Listen. And you'll find the answer within the dialogue of that listening. Do anybody object to that or feel that's not correct? Tell me.
I do.
Good.
I do.
May I add to that? May I add to-
Kalamaia'u, with no disrespect. With no disrespect.
Of course.
Pu'uhonua belongs in the kingdom. First of all,
Yes.
we
And that's why-
need to get the people connected to there because they are the straight. They carry their kupunas. That's the foundation we stand upon. If you put our pu'uhonua, and you're supposed to understand what a pu'uhonua is, you cannot put it out in another country. How is our people going to go there and help strengthen that foundation? That is all I have to say.
No, Maikai, thank you. But as you said, is building an embassy, a kingdom embassy there to bring the ideology of what a Pu'unoa represents. It's not making them Kanakas. It's not saying that this is to be there as a permanent structure. It's bringing the idea and the hope of what the Pu'unoa represents. It's sharing our culture with all those people that, rather than talking about their language and their things, which will only cause more confusion, is to bring the idea that what Hawaii had, which we are restoring, which the Temple of Lono in Hawaii and all the other heiaus and all the other things that we know of, as we build the kingdom there, we're bringing that to where the people can connect. Here is Cyprus, for example, and here is Hawaii. And in between that is a spirit of aloha. So sharing the spirit of aloha from our kingdom, from who we are as a people, may be the element needed, as was King Benjamin in the book of Mosiah. And what he did was trying to unite the other people. And if in other countries, which happened to be the Middle East, and how the chosen people, the lost tribe of Israel, how they came about, all this is connected. We are connected by ocean, by land, by thought. But the Pu'unoa is something that the world has not known, and I believe is one of the elements that can bring about not only the full reclamation of the kingdom of Hawaii, but bring a healing process to the rest of the world through the spirit of aloha. That Maikai, for sharing that with me.
Your Majesty, maybe I can share the historical context of that pu'uhonua. There are 4 great pu'unoas, or sanctuaries of peace. Pu'unua Lehua on the island of Oahu. That
Yes.
Pu'unua Lehua was known as the sanctuary of the gathering. Okay. Then there was the Pu'unua Lehua Pi'ilani, line of the Mo'i at Maui.
Yes.
Okay. And then the youngest, there was the Pu'unua, the oldest one was the Pu'unua in Kauai, Pu'unua Mano Kalani Po. Okay. So then the youngest Pu'unua is Haliokeawe on the island of Oahu. Now understand, when Kamehameha takes Oahu, first the chief son of Oahu is raised by the chief of Maui, Ka'akili. So when the Ka'akili raised the chief of Oahu's son, and then he goes back to Oahu and ascends the throne. Okay, so Ka'akili, the chief of Oahu, of Maui, knowing his rank, and I said, won't you give me the lands of Kualoa, the Pu'unoa, Kualoa, where the Neoploa, the whale's tooth, washes up on the shore for raising you. So the young chief tells his people in the kingdom of Oahu, he says, yes, that's true, I could do that. But then the Tahunas of the Temple of Lono says, wait a minute. If you had ascended the throne to battle, then you can do whatever you want with this sacred land. But because you ascended by birthright, if you give this land to Kahakili, you give up the sovereignty of the people of Oahu. So not only does it stand for a sanctuary of peace, it is the understanding of our idea of sovereignty as a kingdom. It's not how much wealth we have, how much power we have. It's about that garden.
Yes,
It must be there for 7 generations. So, and also understand that when these were destroyed, Kahumanu became the Puhonua.
yes,
So when you look at the king, he also holds that status as Puhonua.
yes,
So you can understand Kamehameha takes Oahu, okay, but then he takes Maui, he establishes the kingdom there, because he needs the Puhonua to feed the Western world.
that's true.
The whaling ships, you could walk from Maui, Lahaina, Maui, all the way behind, ship to ship, deck to deck. And that's why the Battle of Kuamo'o, when he, after Maui and he played Maui, now he comes back to the Big Island and he established the Puhonua of Haliokeawe.
That's true.
Said earlier before, if each family is a church in a sense, each family has a kahuna who is a priest, a doctor, a teacher. This has been passed down within the families.
Yes,
So when you enter the Puhonua, your faith, your discipline or religion, whatever amakua you have, ancestral God, okay, it stays at the door. You enter into the Puhonua, the land, the kuleana of the priests. Okay? Now, the Lono time is only 3 months than the time of the winter and summer solstice. The other 9 months is by another priesthood called Ku, and they can take a life. Their responsibility was the oceans. Why? Because that one was judged. If you killed the sea, you killed the planet.
that's true.
Understand the kanawai of our people was an ecological law. When to pick, how to do, what that plant did, everything. See, our culture is based on the foundation of 4 elements that gives you the platform for faith. But it can be explained. When someone said, friend, why is the ocean a god? I don't mean that it is the supreme, because that supreme is Huna. That's between each family. We have to manifest its validity. And then we have only one Sunday, okay, and it's Makahiki. It's, that 3 months of Lono. That's our Sunday, the Sabbath. Well, all these families come out with their spiritual. Remember, look at the source in life. Look at yourself first. Don't clean anybody else's house first. And then look for the spiritual light reach deep within. This is the consciousness that took battle and killing off the table. Now, the foundation we have today in this time is Hawaii is what? Out of the indigenous people, opened the temple in Kaho'olawe, based on traditional religion. We as indigenous people have always said, we lose the land. I mean, every indigenous people are fighting and losing the land. So that's why having an indigenous faith on the table of faith, okay, this is what the precedent of the connection between the Tahuna and the king. Remember, the mo'i has the power over life and death.
I know. But what I want to say also is that the mo'i is the pu'uhonua.
Yes.
Wherever I go, I am the pu'uhonua, which means that in bringing the pu'uhonua either to Cyprus is basically myself, and to bring about peace. And building the peace center is a legacy that we leave behind, so people can come and find joy and find peace in a way that they have not considered. And I believe that the indigenous culture is maybe not the entire answer, but is an answer, is a way to solve the world problem of chaos, turmoil, and issues. Even with the stealing of our lands, even with developers trying to steal the lands of Maui and all the other lands and to desecrate our sacred burial grounds, all the stuff I know, and we're now working to overcome. Thank you, everybody. This in my
Okay, one more thing before we let go this, Your Majesty.
yes,
Yes. I live in a Pu'uhonua.
yes,
My elders were born in this Pu'uhonua. And this Pu'uhonua is Olowalu.
I
live here.
I
My piko is connected to this Pu'uhonua because I am here in the islands. My heart is for my people and I protect them with all my body and soul. Pu'uhonua, our Pu'uhonua. I understand the governance of what you are explaining. I speak on behalf of the people. Pu'uhonua was a safe place to protect them.
exactly.
When the warriors used to chase them down, as soon as they passed the boundary line, the people was saved. Only thing is you have to live according to the rules of the chief in that ahupua'a.
My Kai, that's absolutely correct. That's
So that's where I'm coming from. E kalamai ya'u.
no, you're right.
That's why
You're right.
saying
Absolutely.
Pu'uhonua should be built in Hawaii first to
We
make
have
the
to-
connection to the Pu'uhonuas that will be added on to other places. You gotta have a source.
My Kai, and the Pu'unoa is being built there. The Peace Center is the main place where all the other peace centers will be linked to. So you're absolutely correct. And we're on the same wavelength. The main Pu'uhonua, which you and I talked about, is to be in Hawaii, period. That's where it begins. And from there, the others will be built. And Cyprus is another place where it's going to be built so we can bring peace within the Middle East. Maikai? Maikai. Thank you. Anybody have any questions before we say, I love this discussion, by the way. So I love it.
It's over.
Yes?
Yeah, I would like to get a hold of these people more often. These two people, because I can learn some more about the history from before. Because growing up in Hawaii, being born and raised in Hawaii, what I learned on Hawaiian history in the history books was lies. So I mean, I find this kapunas like this is what we need to respect. What the younger generation we need to follow. And the ones who are lower than us, even them, because a lot of these young generation, they don't know the history. Yeah, and they lost their way. You know, that's why I have the watch parties, a lot of young generation, they're wishy-washy. You know, in one moment they're against you, next moment they're behind you, then upon which they're against you again, you know. So I mean, they need to learn the history, where they come from, and what really happened. You know, because a lot of these young generation, a lot of them tell me, "Oh, must we stay westernized? Must we stay part of America?" You know, and I said, "No, Hawaii needs to be restored to go back. I go, Hawaii's been returned back to the kingdom, and now we need to get behind the king." But we need to learn the history. Knowing that, and once you get the history, that's all knowledge, it's all wisdom. You know? So I mean, I love, because my dad and my mom and my grandma and grandpa, they taught me, no matter right or wrong, you always respect your elders. That's the kapunas, you know. So when you get older, you're gonna understand. And you know what? When I was young, I mean, I was kalodi. I was very, very kalodi, hard-headed, and like, listen, get into trouble, you know. And I tell you what,
Gloria means
Now-
troublemaker.
yeah, now that I'm older and now I'm a grandpa, it's like, oh, okay. Now I see, and all what I'm doing here with you, with the kingdom and everything, is to pave the way for the younger generation, so there's a better future for them.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I want to say, I love you all. I thank you for being here. And in 2 weeks from now, your assignment is going to be I want you to study the history and culture of Hawaii. Because 2 weeks from now, the topic is just Hawaii, period.
Yep.
You guys to know about, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You don't know what questions I will ask. But when I send out the agenda, I'll have four topics there. And of those topics, you'll choose which one you want to represent. You'll choose your topic and you will defend your topic. You'll defend it with great vigor. And you'll convince me if you're ready to take your position. But that topic, I expect a very healthy discussion. We always show respect, but I want to see emotions respectfully and how you control that. Because when you go out into the world, you're representing the kingdom. You're representing me.
Yep, I agree.
And how you answer the question with integrity and honor is you're representing myself. So therefore, in our surroundings, I love our honest communications. I love Auntie Victoria for even challenging me. It's so pono. I love it. I'm not a king that has a shell around me. I'm one who's open, and I was listening. But I know that all final decision will rest with me. And how I deal with conflicts, etc. I hope you folks will learn, and that's how you deal with it as well. With integrity, with respect. And that's the spirit of aloha. Other than that, you missed the boat. Because that boat of aloha is sailing away. And it's all there. Dr. Grotto and I, we've had some very, very beautiful meetings. And before we have closing prayer, we have a few more minutes. Dr. Grotto, would you like to give a brief report? Or you can wait till 2 weeks from now. What would you like to do?
Totally up to you. Yes.
I can't hear you. Oh. I don't think you can hear me. Anyway, Auntie Victoria, I love you.
I love you more, Your Highness.
Yes, but thank you. I asked Dr. Grotto if he would like to say anything before we say aloha. Okay, thank you. Can you give closing prayer?
It is an honor and a pleasure. My last word to this issue that has been placed upon this table today. I am not an American. You need to show me what year and what document pass me to that. And with this, my first pule will be of growth, ulu, growth in all that we do. And the love will grow even much more stronger with each one of us. Ulu, ulu, kinyo kiakwa, ulu kane me kanalo wa, ulu yellow poa meta ye a no iko kuahu Iya kabaila. Ebaye ola. Allow, Father in heaven, for our ancestors to hear the words that have been spoken on this table today. May the guidance of all these things that has been shared with one and the other be made right with transparency and allow our love for each other to grow, to be able to express ourselves and oki kahomia, so that we can grow together to enrich the lands of Hawaii and to grow aloha with all other nations, all in love. Aloha, love, unexpandable in the distance of the space. It is contagious. It is healing. We thank you, Father, for all this guidance and the protection of our families as we move forward in this endeavor. Io e amama ua noa. And if there is anything that I have said upon this table that has hurt anyone in any way, it was not my intentions. Amen. Mahalo, Your Majesty.
How many? Thank you, everyone. Don't forget your assignment. And I'm going to be very, very critical. I will tell you up front. And I probably will get upset. I will know if you truly studied. So, and if you haven't studied, I'm going to say aloha. Those, this is actually, it's not the final thing, but all this that we've been doing is in preparation for all whom I'm to choose to represent the Kingdom of Hawaii. Because you're not just representing yourself and your family, but your ancestors as well. That is my culture. You're representing me. Your words become mine, and mine become yours. We never want to or need to express or apologize for anything that we say to others, because we know what we do comes from here, from there. So it's very important. And it's okay for all of you to be critical of each other. I love that. Debate. I love debates. Everybody, aloha and God bless. Ahui o.
Aloha. Mahalo.